Okay, let's start doing some stuff interesting now. Me just blah blah blah. But I hope that you understand the reason that I did spend the last two videos explaining what I'm explaining. Because basically, we're really building the foundation of what it is. And so far, what we discussed about is that law is still there, but your ethics will be the ones that will kind of makes you take your own decisions, and that ethics that is something that you have to come out with. And the best way to actually to come with is run scenarios in your head. What if this happened? What is this? And actually, hopefully, through this series, some of those scenarios will come in, and we'll be able to like, what if this happened? What would we do and stuff? And we'll try to provide you tools so you can help you take decisions. So, for example, when we'll do triage, we'll provide you tools that will help kind of be help you like, okay, is that one, what's the percentage and things like that, because then you'll be able to take a more rational decision. So so now we've been talking about this, and we've been talking about how some decision will be very hard to make. And let's talk about what we're going to include in that self-reliance medicine, and why we're talking about all this ethics and stuff like this. So sitting down and thinking about it, wilderness medicine is a great tool for self-reliance, but it has its limits, and we'll see why. And so, self-reliance, I think, will be like a mix of different medicine. And so, basically, for getting this, for getting this kind of self-reliance, we'll be mixing a bunch of medicine. And why would we be doing this? Like I said before, over there, there's nothing. It doesn't exist. It's not really been created and stuff like this. So we have to do something that will help us understand. And again, I always believe in my practice, I always try to do what we call in medicine-based, evidence-based medicine. So meaning that it's based on something. There's been research and stuff. Well, if this doesn't exist, there won't be research of it. So how can we build something that we think will work if we don't have anything like this? And so if we can build a good portion of it that it is uh, studied and it is being stuffed, then this should work, because we'll use some of the concept that's been proven and everything and use it over here. So basically, we'll be taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So where are we going to be taking it from? I think a good place to start is from disaster medicine. The reason that I'm going to use disaster medicine is that it's a disaster. So basically, limited resource, a lot of casualties. So for example, Haiti is a big example of this. That example in Japan as well, big example. So yes, they're mostly catastrophe, so natural catastrophe and things like that. But they will help us with this, is that this component of like the ethics, and also the component of the limited resource and everything. So we'll be relying a lot on disaster medicine, and so subscribing to a lot of courses, and I got a lot of books coming in and stuff like this on that. The next component, and the reason that I'm thinking it's good, well, when I first did my videos on wilderness medicine, I explained a little bit the difference between, and wilderness medicine is a big category, and actually some people say that disaster medicine kind of goes under wilderness medicine, which is kind of like wilderness medicine meets emergency medicine, and they have a kid in disaster medicine. So the other one that we're going to be using is expedition medicine. And why? And again, it's because usually expedition medicine is the limited resource. So you're at a base camp for 2 or 3 weeks. You're far from any like, it's not like you're going for a hike and you're in the woods for 4 or 5 hours, which is still like wilderness medicine. But expedition medicine, it's more like how would you do if you're Antarctica and so you have resource available, but they're far and there may be 3 days or 1 week away from walking, stuff like this. So there is some concept over there that will be, and this has been studied obviously because you have like a lot of people going to Everest and things like that. So we'll get a lot of a resource from that. The other one, alternative medicine. And so why alternative medicine? And so it's kind of a global, a little bit like wilderness medicine. It encompasses a lot of different medicine. And so when we talk about alternative medicine, we talk about Chinese medicine, chiropractor, herbology, and all those. And we'll be looking at, because this the one that will be having a lot of discussion, I think, because some people, think it's kind of voodoo medicine, and some other people are like, they're just living by that. And so we'll try to go more towards the middle, and we'll try to see there is. Like for example, ginger. It's neither in those two really, but it's been proven, it's been studied and stuff. And so ginger will be probably part of her one of the things that we'll be using in her self-reliance medicine because it's been proven, it's been studied and everything. So there is stuff in alternative medicine that we'll be using for that. And then after that, creativity. And that's where, even if people don't have a lot of medical background, this is where your input will be awesome because a lot of people out there are very make your own projects and things like that and build stuff out of nothing. And we'll have to create this because we'll be talking a little bit more about that. But I believe that after a certain part, more when I'm thinking about it, right? And again, a lot of that stuff is my opinion. Most of the things that anyway people were saying it's opinions because this doesn't exist. We're pretty much making it right now. What I think is that a lot of the stuff that will be here will be building it. And it's a little bit the same thing, the same concept as survival. I mean, those concepts are pretty much, this self-reliance medicine thing is pretty much the same concept that we have. And this was kind of blows my mind because a lot of people are into survival. And when it comes to medicine, they don't apply the same concept that they apply to on survival. So, for example, trying to keep as many dressing as you can in your stuff, it's exactly like saying that I'm going to survive with my tent. Okay, yeah, you can survive pretty much with your tent, like, for a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. But after that, you start need to think about other things that you're probably going to need to create stuff. But if you're like, no, I got my tent and I'll be good. Well, what happens if your tent is not there? So you need to have the knowledge to like, okay, if I lose my tent or something happened to my tent when I create, and what do we learn in survival? Well, we learn how to make shelters and what can be good to make shelters and how to make an A-frame or a lean-to and things like that. And so this example shows exactly what we'll try to do with the medicine is that, yes, dressings are an important component of holding and everything, but there's a cool YouTube channel, actually I'll put it, he did a good presentation on how to be prepared. And he was saying there's like the 1/3 rule. So anything that you have in your gear, be prepared that 1/3 will be functional, 1/3 you'll lose because of whatever reason, and 1/3 will be something that will happen to it, like it won't work or something like this. So basically, out of everything that you have, just 1/3 of your gear will be functional. Well, in the first state, could happen. I mean, let's say you're in a earthquake. Well, now your first aid kit, then maybe you'll lose some of the gear over there. So now you have to be able to reproduce that gear that you're creating. So even if you're in a self-reliance situation, or you have like gears at different places and stuff like that. So so we'll be a lot of creativity on creating some of the stuff we need, and at a certain level, and we'll be talking about that right now. So this is what basically will create our base for a what we're going to be talking about. So the other thing now that we need to talk about is talk about the separation of what the medicine that we're going to create and stuff. And I think there's going to be a time frame, and we're going to separate our mentality in two. And I think will help us make decisions. So less than a month, and anything more than a month. And why? So I think if, for example, we identify, so again, when we talk about self-reliance medicine, we're encompassing a lot of stuff. Katrina would go kind of like this because it has a little bit of disaster. But if you're stuck with your stuff, a plane crash. So your plane crash, it doesn't really qualify into the wilderness medicine situation, but it does. You're limited in your resource, so you're more in the self-reliance part of it. There's a big SARS or H1N1 wipes out. They say that it would take, if a big virus would become actually H5N1, if that would come, then it would wipe out about 40 to 50% of the working population. So basically now, like, you were talking nurses, doctors, everything at the medical background that won't be able to go even to work. And so that means that up to a month that you probably would have to supply your own self of doing your own care and things like that. So those are kind of situation and everything. And why do I make a separation is quite important, because you will start thinking differently if you're on this side of the line or this side of the line. And that will be for the next video.